All right, morning, everyone from the Pacific Northwest on the Pacific coast of the United States. This is Nancy Rebecca, and let's just start moving into our virtual space. This is bonus day 2, where I'm explaining A, we're all intuitive, and B, we actually have different intuitive styles. It is our nature. It is the way that our spirit uses those frequencies, those intuitive imprints, that intuitive communication to help communicate and guide us and share wisdom and life. So, welcome, come on in to everyone who's joining me on YouTube, everyone who's joining me on the Facebook page, Intuition with Precision. So, good morning. Good morning. I was just thinking this morning about all of you who have really been joining in this whole week. And I was sitting here thinking, your life is already different. If you just even start to think back on what is today, Saturday, last Saturday, before we started talking about the masterclass with practical intuition during these kind of difficult, troubling times. And then now we're talking about intuition. So just raising your knowledge level, learning how to ground and center, all of those things have shifted you vibrationally and frequency wise. You are different than you were last Saturday. And we're going to continue on through Tuesday, just sharing a lot more information with you about intuition. But before I jump into that, so this topic is called The Sounds of Inner Silence. But I'll also be talking about telepathy. So this is clear hearing. I'm going to go through the different kind of signs that might indicate that you are predominantly a clear hearer. Now, we again are all intuitive. We all have a dominant intuitive style. So you're going to really know after these 4 days what your dominant style is, but it's not your only style. And some of you are going to find that you've got a little bit of everything. I know my dominant style was clear seeing, but over the 28 years, I've really cultivated a higher awareness and sensitivity to all the other intuitive styles. So, good morning to all Virginia. Hello, everyone. Nice to see you, Nancy Kerwin. Now, first of all, we did have someone who won the full scholarship to Psychic Mastery 1. That's Amy Gookin. So just again, a huge celebration, excitement. You're going to love the program. In addition to that, we have 14 new students. So I'm super excited for all of you who were signing up over the last couple of days. But don't worry if you're still sitting with yourself, because the enrollment's not going to close until Tuesday afternoon, October, is that 4th, I think. So you still have a few days to sit and make your pros and cons list, or however it is that you make decisions. Now, I have a saying: if your spirit is saying yes, don't let your head talk you out of it. But if your spirit is saying, no, this isn't the right time for you, then don't let your head talk you into it. Now, I know that's easier said than done, but that's kind of a really good kind of rule that I go by. But that's what you learn also in Psychic Mastery 1, is how to discern what is your spiritual voice and what is your kind of human, mental, maybe ego voice. So it's not always easy to tell, but you can definitely cultivate that ability. Now, we drew two more names for those of you who've been participating every day. When you participate in the exercise, so yesterday, the exercise, we were talking about clear feeling, being empathic, kind of trying to identify what you were feeling throughout the day. If you were noticing sensitivities, some of you went out of the house to kind of explore your emotional feeling sensitivities, frequent sensitivities. And some of you stayed within your own house and just noticed a lot just by moving from room to room. So anyway, we drew from those two names, and this is what you're going to be receiving, and that is a reading with me in a group setting. It will be a Zoom virtual call, but all of you who participated this week who have won that chance to have a reading, what was I going to say about that? Just do the exercise. So I'm going to share with you what tomorrow's exercise is, because once I get started talking, I can forget and leave you all hanging. So tomorrow's exercise on bonus day 2, it's about going through your day today. And if you have a song kind of stuck in your head, or if you have a particular song that always seems to come up for you, that you find yourself, no matter what you're doing, you're kind of singing that song in the background, go to YouTube or wherever you need to go to see all the words to the song, so that you can listen to all the words and get what Spirit is trying to communicate to you. Because in our clear hearing, that's one of the ways that that your Spirit tries to give you messages. So that will be bonus day 2 exercise to kind of list what your favorite song is and what was the spiritual message that came through the words of that song. So that's exciting. Good morning. So we have about 30 of you on this morning. Exciting. All right. Who won today? So I will say number 1, drum roll, is Max Bowden. And Max Bowden has been very diligent and really making long posts, and doesn't know if they feel any sensitivities or not. And, knowing that they must be intuitive because they've moved through their life and made really good choices, maybe not so good choices sometimes, but knowing that Spirit has still played a role in their life. But to also know that, Max, you can develop and cultivate a higher sensitivity. And then there's Drew Sounders. So congratulations, Drew, on also being able to, I look forward to meeting you during our group reading call. But I will say, Drew, if you're listening in today, or if you listen to the recording later, you've got a strong spirit, and your spirit's just been coming through so strong that I just thought for sure you would be the one that would win the scholarship. But you have a strong spirit that's knocking on your door. I'll just say that. So congratulations, Drew, and to Max Bowden. All right. So everybody's intuitive, but let's see if clear hearing from your 5th chakra, that clear communication, is that your dominant style? Can you relate or can you not relate to it? So, okay. Number 1, I am predominant clairaudient if I have a tune running through my head all the time during the day or at night. And I've had people tell me that, what was I going to say about the song? I can't remember. Oh, anyway, let me keep going. If I can hear someone humming a tune, I can pick up on it easily. So if you have an ear for sound, I prefer listening rather than taking notes. When I'm doing a psychic reading for someone, I will say, what's your style of learning? I'm very visual. Therefore, I'm going to doodle the whole time I'm listening to the reading, because when I write, I can see the doodles, I can see the words. It helps me retain the information. People who are predominantly a clear hearer prefer nothing in their hands, no distractions. They just want to hear the words because they can take it in that way. If you have a good ear for languages and accents, you're going to be have a high dominance of clear hearing. I retain and remember information better if I hear them explained to me verbally. I remember once when my son was in high school, he's looking at the board. He was dyslexic, and he couldn't read the instructions on the board because it might say it might give the instructions and he might interpret it as opposite, but he would ask the teacher, can you read to me the assignment off the board? And then he was able to take in that information more. I often hear sounds that other people don't notice. Have you ever heard? That's always kind of freaky when you're in a room by yourself and all of a sudden you hear Nancy and you look around and there's no one there. You hear your name called. That's clairaudience. That's clear hearing. So, yeah, so good morning. You both are still popping on. I love it. This is another thing about my son, and I've learned about a lot of people. Sounds. If sounds stimulate your thinking and your imagination, or if you're doing homework. So his dad and I thought you shouldn't be listening to music it's too distracting. You need to have pure silence. But once he went through kind of a testing of his learning style, found out that actually he retains more if he can have some music or maybe a television going in the background. So he would have a strong sense of clairaudience then. When working, I have greater focus. There we go. If music, sound, noise is going on in the background. You do wonder sometimes, like you can just be sitting in the middle of the airport and you can just so focus because that hum of conversations and movement really stimulates you on so many levels. But for other people, it's like, wow, this is too much, too distracting. It's easier for me to listen if I close my eyes. That means you're tuning out any distractions because your clairaudience is heightened and it's bringing in information. Going beyond magical thinking, the songs that I hear in my head feel like guidance and messages that fit perfectly with my current situation. I remember once working as a nurse in the cardiac intensive care unit, and I was popping in and out of the rooms tending to my patients, and I could hear the secretary at the desk singing this song, just kind of humming and singing the song. And so I stopped and I asked her, "What's the name of that song?" She gave me the name, and I'm like, well, keep singing. What are the words to that song? Because the words are always some type of message. And the song was like having an affair with a married man or something like that. Her eyes got really big and she was like, oh, shoot. So maybe that wasn't the message that she wanted to hear, but let's just say she could relate to the words. Okay. This is a big one. This is telepathy. Someone can be thinking of something in their head and you say it out loud. That's when people jump back and they're like, okay, how did you just do that? I was just thinking that in my head. I hadn't even said it out loud. But for those of you who have a really dominant style of clear hearing, to you, it literally sounds like they literally just said it out loud. And I'm just going to tell you, we are awakening to our intuition. We're awakening so much to our intuition and our telepathy that this is going to be the way of the future. We're going to be able to talk much more, communicate much more through telepathy. I remember when I was in China and I met a Taoist master, and I remember the interpreter asked me if I had a question for the Taoist master. And I said, nope, no need to interpret for me because he and I are having a full conversation telepathically that requires no outward communication. When the interpreter said this to the Taoist master, he had a huge smile on his face and just nodded, yeah. And it was incredible. I don't know that that's ever happened to me at any other point in my life, but that day I've never forgotten it. Okay. Sometimes I hear my name being called. I've mentioned that. Bells, chimes, bee buzzing. Those are pretty big ones. Lots of people, they'll say, I remember once I had a student in class and say, are you all hearing this bell? And there was about 30 people in the class, and we kind of nervously laughed. And then we realized that they were really serious. So we tried to kind of find that sense of the bell, and we couldn't. And that student, before the end of that weekend workshop, had a full intuitive spiritual opening, and that sound was just that indicator, like a doorbell ringing, that it was time to awaken fully to his intuition. How about when remembering a friend or family member speaking, you can hear their voice talking in your mind? How about your loved ones who've crossed over and suddenly you can hear them speaking? Did you know that actually you're hearing them from the other side? You're hearing them from the spirit world. It's the same with angels and guides talking to you in words and sounds, not in pictures. That's clear hearing. Someone on Facebook, unfortunately, I can't see your name, but yeah, you were sad, you woke up, you had a melody repeating in your mind, and you recognized the song. And the song was This Little Light of Mine. That's your spirit singing to you to help uplift you. Now, there is a secondary type of events that it's, now I will say, clear hearing, clairaudience. When I was teaching 20 years ago, that was very rare that I would have someone in my class that was predominantly a clear hearer. I do have a very good friend of mine who I met in North Carolina, and they were the only one in the class who, every time I'm guiding through meditation, they would hear sounds, words, vibrations, frequencies, and tones that really intuitively guided them. And it was really rare. And that student actually taught me a lot about their learning style. But what I will say now in the year 2022, in my Psychic Mastery 2 class last year, I think I had, I don't even remember how many students I had, but I would say a good 60% of them were predominantly clear hearing. Why am I experiencing that? Because we are awakening to our telepathy. Everyone's awakening. So that particular style is moving up in frequency. So secondary clairaudience is smell and taste. I can smell an item and tell the history of that item. I had for about 5 years, I taught young students intuitive development. And we would play this game where they'd shuffle a deck of cards face down, and then we'd pick it up and put it between their hands. And their only exercise was to tell if it was going to be a red card or a black card. Now we know you have a 50-50 chance of getting it right just through guessing, right? Well, there was this one young boy who kind of saw, and he would take the card and then he'd smell the card and then he'd go, that's a red one. And then he would turn it over and it would be red. And then again, he'd smell, that's a black one. And he had about an 80% outcome of being 100% accurate just through smell. His parents shared with me later when they came to pick him up that it's kind of embarrassing when their child has to go around smelling everything. And they're always telling them, please don't do that in public. But what I said that's intuitively how his spirit communicates to him and how he gets intuitive information. So telling him not to smell is like telling you to write with your hands tied behind your back. So I am sensitive to how someone smells in relationship to how they are feeling. How many of you can smell fear? Fear has a certain kind of smell to it. Worry has a smell to it. Anger has a smell to it. So maybe you've never heard of that before, but now you can start tuning into smells. I can smell things in a dream state. Have any of you ever had a dream where you're in the kitchen and bread is baking and you can literally smell the bread? You associate events and memories based on certain smells. I still, once in a while, can have this certain sense of smell that triggers, it's this flood of memories. And the smell is my baby bottle. I mean, that long ago, it's like, oh, I could smell the kind of the rubber from the nipple of the baby bottle. And so, yeah, that'll come flooding back once in a while. When you're walking in nature, you can smell multiple items at the same time in the air. I know when I've been to Hawaii, the floral frequencies of those smells are incredible. Here in our Pacific Northwest, the evergreen state, yeah, you can smell a variety of the seawater to cedar trees to fragrances of flowers. It's just so much. And it's interesting, someone was just saying, I smell a burning smell when I'm stressed. I love that because that's your way of spirit can indicate to you, okay, you're overly stressed, you're smelling the burn smell again. Let's put some things into place to start getting your stress level down. How about food? Now, Vaughn is incredible. And actually, she's taught me a lot about this. Is when I smell food, I can determine all the different spices that are in it. How about perfume? Perfumists that have that nose that can tell all the different oils that are in the perfumes. So now, when Yvonne makes a meal, she'll say, taste it and see if you can tell me all the different spices that are in it. And that's the way you can practice that. And I've gotten better at that. How about smells of the thickness of the energy of the room? I think I mentioned this yesterday or last couple of weeks where someone described walking into a room and it felt and smelled like peanut butter. Now, that really tells you a lot about that room. It was really, the energy was super thick. Or how clear a room is when you walk into it. Smells activate imagination. So, again, are you able to relate to any of these? If so, then you may have a strong sense of that clear hearing, clear smelling, clear taste might be predominant for you. I identify memories of people based on their smell. Oh my gosh, I'll have clients and students will say, oh my gosh, that it smells like my grandmother's around. So that smell will come in. Or how many of you ever smelled cigarette smoke or cigar smoke, or maybe the fragrance of a beer and there's nobody around? Okay, this is a big one. And I never knew that this was possible until the first time that it happened to me. And I would say it was about 10 years ago, I had this experience. The taste in my mouth changes as I communicate with someone. So you can actually taste the energy around the words that they're communicating. Now, if that sounds like the craziest thing you've ever heard, just try it. Pay attention. You might have it, you might not. We all have different intuitive styles. When I touch an item, I can taste it in my mouth. Oh my gosh, this one annoys me. When I read a newspaper and I'm touching the newspaper, the ink, the frequency of the ink travels through my fingertips. I can taste the ink in my mouth. So try that, practice that. Old books, old musty books, when you touch them and it's almost like you can taste the old kind of musty mildew on the pages. When I'm doing a healing treatment with someone, I can taste the energy in my mouth. When I have old memories come up or working with someone else talking about the past, sometimes I can smell it as an old musty smell. You're very sensitive to fragrances and perfumes. Someone who's clairaudient, clear hearing, they prefer the natural smell of the body because that helps them to take in how you're doing that day when they're talking to you. So, like in Hawaii, the word aloha. So you can even say it out loud where you are, aloha. So they would say that so that they could smell each other's breath, and then they knew how you were doing just based on the smell of your breath. And then they use the word haole for someone who is without breath. So they may refer to other people who are visiting Hawaii as haoles because they are without breath. Because when the first colonists kind of came to Hawaii, they would reach out to shake a hand rather than exchange breath with you. Now, I'm a nurse. Nurses, doctors, people in the medical field, can smell different types of infections that someone has. I know my dad is an infectious disease doctor. He can smell and tell you exactly what bacteria is causing the infection in someone. So that's when you are predominantly clairaudient. Now, the one thing that I haven't mentioned is ringing in the ears. Ringing in the ears and dizziness. So now you definitely can have a physical problem when you have ringing in the ears, and you can also have physical issues when you can smell or hear voices and things like that that may need to get checked out by someone in the medical field, just to make sure that it's not some type of brain tumor that's pressing, or some infection in the ears, or an infection in the throat. So yeah, you want to rule those things out. But someone who's predominantly clairaudient, they'll hear that high-pitched sound. That means that either their own spirit's trying to communicate with them, or another spirit's trying to communicate with them. If you have that high-pitched sound that just suddenly comes on, and if it suddenly comes on with dizziness, that's a very strong indicator there's a message coming through from the spirit world. Remember that movie, You've Got Mail? It's like you have that frequency, that dizziness. You want to sit down right away. You want to ground. You want to close your eyes, get that inner quiet going. And then say, yes, what's the message? Once you get the message, often that ringing in the ears will stop. The dizziness will stop. If I'm in the middle of something and I feel a strong dizziness, I'll send a telepathic message to my guides, angels, higher self, and I'll say, sounds like you've got a strong message for me. I can't hear it right now, but I promise to check back with you later. So that's clear hearing. The sounds of the inner silence. Yeah, it's helpful to be able to get super quiet. Ask those questions of your higher self so that you can hear the messages come back to you from your higher self, or when you're praying and talking to the God of your heart, the creator, so that you can maybe hear those messages coming back. Fortunately, your spirit has all sorts of ways of getting your attention through synchronicity, symbology, numerology, seeing lots of numbers come up that kind of just say, hey, time to pay attention. Those songs, those words, time to pay attention. All right, that is clairaudience, that is clear hearing, that is telepathy, and taste and smell. So if you have any of those, that's your exercise for today, is just to kind of talk about, oh yeah, I have all of those, because you may have had them and not even realized that it is an intuitive superpower for you. Now, just before I wrap up, just that reminder, Psychic Mastery 1 registration enrollment is still open till Tuesday. I already mentioned that. We have a lot of people. Do you know, we have people writing and saying, I don't know what to do. Can Nancy or someone take a look and see if this program is right for me? Well, I teach intuitive development. I teach you how to be your own best teacher, how to get your own answers. And so it's going to be really important that however you need to do that to get your sign, ask Spirit to give you a sign. Now, when I had my out-of-body experience, and suddenly sighted and suddenly intuitive, I had an opportunity to learn how to meditate and learn how to intuitively develop. I was terrified. I was like, I don't know what this Pandora's box is, and I'm not even sure I like what's already opened, and I don't even know what has the potential to open for me. Unfortunately, my mother said, well, you don't have to take the class. I totally get it. You're really scared, but I'm going to take the class anyway. And so what did I do? I said, are you serious? You're going to take the class? And I said, all right, if you take the class, I'm going to take the class. So if you do have a buddy system and it's like you're a little scared, but you're going to feel more comfortable with your buddy joining with you, then absolutely do that. I know it was a lifesaver for my mother. I don't even know how many more years I would have suffered if she hadn't just crossed that bridge before me that I needed to cross. I just didn't know it at the time, or my fear pushed my intuitive senses out of the way. Anyway, I look forward to reading all of your exercises today about clear hearing, more about how you pick up sound, high level intuitive sounds. Also, don't hesitate to let us know if you have more questions about the program, and look forward to connecting with all of you on the Psychic Mastery One in private Facebook page who register. So, all right, everyone, have a fantastic day. Just know I'm doing 3 interviews starting at 1, 2, and 3. We're going to be talking to more of our Psychic Mastery One students, and I know you're going to love their stories as well. All right, take care, everyone. Have an awesome morning, and I'll see you this afternoon.